I've stayed in a lot of motels. When you drive long-haul routes for work like I used to, motels become as familiar as your own living room. The smell of industrial detergent, the clunk of an ice machine at 2 in the morning, the way the parking lot always looks different in the dark. You stop noticing things after a while. That was my first mistake. It was a Wednesday night in late October, somewhere in rural Pennsylvania, about 40 miles east of nothing. I'd been on the road since dawn hauling samples to a medical supply conference in Philadelphia, and my eyes were starting to blur at the edges. The GPS had routed me off the interstate to avoid a multi-car pileup, and I ended up pulling into a place called the Lakeview Motor Inn, which was notable for having no visible lake anywhere nearby. The office smelled like burnt coffee and old carpet. The woman behind the desk was maybe 60, with reading glasses perched at the end of her nose and a name tag that said Ruth. She didn't look up when I came in. She was watching something on a small television mounted in the corner. I couldn't tell what, and she took my card without comment, handed me a key card and told me room 216. Is anyone in the rooms on either side of me? I asked. I don't know why I asked. I just had one of those days where the idea of hearing someone's TV through a thin wall felt unbearable. She glanced up then. Something passed across her face, not quite a frown, more like a brief recalibration. Room 218 is occupied, she said. Room 214 is not. I thanked her and went to find my room. The hallway was long and narrow, lit by those overhead fluorescents that always seemed to be running at about 70% capacity. Just bright. Enough to see, but dim enough to feel wrong. The carpet was a dark burgundy pattern, the kind designed to hide stains. My room was midway down the corridor. I let myself in, dropped my bag, and stood for a moment in the silence. The room was fine, clean, even. Bed was firm, the heater worked, and the TV got 3 channels clearly. I ate a gas station sandwich I'd been saving, brushed my teeth, and was asleep by 10:30. I woke up at 1:17 a.m. I know the time because I looked at my phone immediately. It was the sound that woke me, a slow, rhythmic knocking. Not frantic, not desperate, just steady, like someone tapping a finger on a table while they thought. It was coming from the wall to my left, the wall that bordered room 214. The room Ruth had told me was empty. I lay there for a while, telling myself it was pipes. Old buildings knock, heating systems expand and contract. I've stayed in 100 places where the walls groaned at night. But pipes don't knock in patterns. This was deliberate, 3 slow taps, a pause of about 5 seconds, then 3 more. Over and over. I sat up and pressed my ear to the wall. Up close it was clearer. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. It didn't speed up. It didn't stop. It just continued, metronomic and patient, like whoever was doing it had all the time in the world. I almost called the front desk. I picked up the phone, actually held the receiver. But something stopped me. A feeling I couldn't name at the time. Something between embarrassment and a deeper, more instinctive reluctance, the kind that tells you not to make noise in the dark. I put the receiver down. I turned on the television for company and eventually fell back asleep with the sound still going, or maybe it had stopped. I genuinely can't remember. In the morning, I went to the office to get a coffee from the little machine near the door. Ruth was there again, or still. She looked like she hadn't moved. Was anyone checked into 214 last night? I asked, keeping my voice casual. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, "That room's been out of service for about 3 years." I waited for her to say more. She didn't. Out of service, why? I asked. She turned back to her television. Guest had an episode in there. Management decided not to relet it. I didn't ask what kind of episode. I'm not sure I wanted to know. I signed out, loaded my car, and drove the rest of the way to Philadelphia without stopping. What I keep coming back to, the thing I can't file away neatly, is the pattern. 3 taps, then a pause. 3 taps, then a pause. It wasn't random. Someone had a reason for that rhythm. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I keep wondering if it was a signal. If whatever was in that room was trying to tell me something or ask me something, and whether I made the right call by not answering. My company sent me to a conference in downtown Chicago last February. 3 nights at a business hotel near the Loop, one of those glass and steel high-rises where every floor looks identical and you can walk the same hallway 4 times before you realize you've been going in a circle. I'd stayed there once before, a few years back. Nice enough place. Nothing memorable. That was about to change. I checked in around 9 at night. The lobby was quiet, that specific kind of quiet you get in business hotels after 7. When the conference crowd has scattered to their rooms and the bar is down to its last 2 customers. The front desk agent was polished and efficient, upgraded me without me asking, handed me my key card with a smile that had probably been identical for 8 hours. "You're on 14, she said. "Elevators are to your right." The room was good, corner unit, view of the city. I ordered room service, answered some emails, and was about to wind down when I realized I'd forgotten to grab ice for the bottle of bourbon I'd packed. The ice machine was at the far end of the hall, past the elevator bank. It was maybe 11:15 when I stepped into the corridor. The hallway stretched away from me in both directions, identical doors on either side, that low-wattage ambient lighting that all these hotels use, warm but slightly insufficient, like the building itself was tired. The carpet was dark green with a geometric pattern. My footsteps were muffled to almost nothing. Halfway to the ice machine, I passed the elevators. One set of doors was standing open, not like they just arrived and hadn't closed yet. They'd been open long enough that the interior light had that slightly stale quality, the elevator just sitting there, waiting. I didn't think much of it. I got my ice and came back. The elevator was still open. I slowed down. The car was empty. There was no one in the hallway. I stood there for a moment, ice bucket in hand, watching the open doors. There's something specifically unnerving about an open elevator on a quiet floor at night. Something that bypasses rational thought and goes straight to something older. I don't know how to explain it better than that. I took the stairs back to my room. The next morning I was up early for a 7 a.m. panel. Coming back at noon, I noticed the door to room 1408, directly across from the elevators, had its privacy latch engaged, the little metal arm wedged into the door frame so it couldn't fully close. Housekeeping couldn't have done that. That's something you do from inside. I mentioned it to the front desk when I went down for lunch. The woman I spoke to, a different agent, younger, with a lanyard that said training on it, typed something, frowned slightly, and said she'd have someone check on it. That night I was coming back from dinner around 10 when I saw her. A woman in the hallway outside 1408, standing very close to the door, not moving. She had her back to me. She was wearing a gray cardigan, dark slacks. She was just standing there, facing the door, which was now fully closed. I said, "Excuse me, are you okay?" She turned around slowly. She was older, maybe late 60s, with short white hair and an expression that was difficult to read, not distressed, not confused, but something I describe as carefully neutral, like someone maintaining composure over something large. "I'm fine," she said. "Thank you. Do you need anything?" "No." A pause. "I'm just waiting. I went to my room. I didn't sleep well." I kept hearing the elevator at the end of the hall, the soft chime of it arriving, the doors opening. It came every 20 minutes or so through the night. I lay in the dark and counted the chimes and tried to remember if elevators do that, if they cycle up and down on some automatic schedule. I couldn't remember if that was a thing. In the morning, the room across from the elevators had a "Do Not Disturb" sign on the handle that hadn't been there the day before. I checked out a day early. I told my company there had been a scheduling conflict. The truth is, I just needed to be somewhere with more light and more noise, somewhere I could hear people on all sides of me going about ordinary things. I did look up the hotel later. Nothing came up in news searches. No incident reports, no reviews mentioning anything strange. Just 4-star ratings and the usual complaints about slow room service. I still don't know who the woman was. I don't know what she was waiting for. But what I think about sometimes, and the way that specific images tend to recur, is the sound of those elevator doors, opening and closing in the dark all night long on a floor where, as far as I could tell, no one was arriving or leaving.